web of weird connects us all. The world's a strange place, but we're all one big family. You ready to get weird? Hello. Welcome back to the Web of Weird. This is Tall Paul.
This is Little J. What's up, big brother?
What's up? What's up?
How you doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. Had a
Nice.
nice little bike ride earlier today after eating at a cool little organic cafe. Kind of a perfect night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, been darking around today too, and going down rabbit holes again. The same material that we're looking at last time with the
Nice.
Power of Place, and actually like sacred places like pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge and fun stuff. Yeah, how are you?
I'm doing all right. My awesome husband made arepas tonight, which are yummy little cheesy corn flour treats. So I'm full of good food.
Nice.
And I'm ready to talk about weird places again, I hope. Anything weird happened to you this week?
Weird things. I haven't had any like real like synchronicities or crazy dreams or anything like that. Kind of the only cool stuff to me that's happened is a little bit more plain to me. So I work with my gemstones all the time, just for stress maintenance and stuff like that. And so every once in a while, one of them's like extra powerful. And I happen to be working with this one called pink kunzite. It's actually really expensive. It's kind of a sought after as far as like jewels go, like in necklaces and rings and stuff, because it's like really,
Kunzite, you said.
yeah, pink kunzite. It's like
Yeah, that's a nice one. I know what it is.
yeah, really pink. Yeah, like it had a really strong charge to it, and kind of all the hard feelings I was having about things just kind of fell away and just kind of really came into my heart center like almost instantly. It was really good. It was pretty powerful. But yeah, that's just working with my stones. It's kind of like I do that all the time. How about you?
Let's see. I was just looking and because I was just curious, but it's made of lithium aluminum silicate.
Yeah. The lithium is always really good for heart stuff. Got some
That's cool.
really pretty pinkish lithium quartz. That's awesome for that too.
That's cool. Um what's going on with me? I had a fun weekend last weekend because there's a little tiny town near where the Patterson Gimlin film was captured. So there's a little town called Willow Creek, like not far from Bluff Creek, the where that film site was, and
Yeah.
they're pretty like into their identity, their like cultural identity with Bigfoot. Like it's part of their town and whatever. So they have a
So awesome.
Bigfoot festival every year and a Bigfoot parade. So we went there, and something kind of cool happened when I was playing frisbee outside my house in the street, and my neighbor rolled up, and her kid is a few years younger than Ollie, and so the kids, they get out of the car, they're talking to us. The kids start playing frisbee. I'm chatting up my neighbor, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're going to the Bigfoot parade tomorrow up in Willow Creek." And she's like, "Oh, my son loves Bigfoot." And I was like, "He does?" And she's like, "Yeah, he totally does." And then, she's like, "What's the tea about it?" And I gave her the details. I was like, "It's going to be up at 10 and whatever." So like you should really go. I think he would like it cuz he's like 6 or 7. And
Yeah.
so then the neighbor kid starts talking about how much he likes Bigfoot, and Oliver's like, "I love Bigfoot." And so they ended up coming over and sitting down, and she had a cup of tea with me, and the kids were crafting, and I figured out that my neighbors really like Bigfoot. And we exchanged UFO stories. And it was all because of the Bigfoot parade that we
Nice.
exchanged stories about just our thoughts on Bigfoot, Sasquatch, and And then they just recently, as a family, saw a UFO, like not too far from here. Like when they were driving home from Nevada, they were somewhere out like near Nevada City, kind of towards Truckee. And anyhow, they
Okay.
saw something that was interesting in the sky. And all three of them saw it. And my favorite part was listening to the kid tell me about the UFO. And then I asked him if he had a Bigfoot experience ever, and he told me something about Bigfoot. And then he started telling me that his big theory was that Bigfoot was Gigantopithecus.
Oh,
The
he's
kid's 6,
yeah, yeah,
and I about fell off my chair because this kid is so flippin' cute, and he's just like, it's Gigantopithecus. And I was like, oh my god, you guys do like Bigfoot. And my neighbor's like, yeah. So like somehow we like attained another level of neighborliness through Bigfoot and UFO stories. So that was really, really funny. And to see a little or hear a little 6-year-old reason out the Gigantopithecus Bigfoot theory was like super rad. How cute is that, right? Oh my god.
that's super cute.
That kid. Yeah. And then Oliver shared his UFO story about when you and I and him were in the car driving. And remember, we were on that army base and he saw some weird stuff
Yeah.
in the sky, right? You know, like right when we were, anyhow, he drew it out and he explained it. So, like, my neighbor told her UFO story, and then Oliver told his, and then I told one. And yeah, it was pretty funny. It was great, actually. I was like, all right. We're totally, I already love them and everything, but now I just like love them more. I'm like, just, you know, our mutual levels of weird are deepening, and that's a good thing. And she just kind of thought that, she laughed. She's like, yes, I agree. So that was really cool. And then let's see what else happened this week. Oh, this was kind of cool. Oliver experienced kind of a synchronicity. We went out to dinner and we were in this really loud friggin' pub here. It was loud, loud, loud.
Okay.
And Oliver got kind of overstimulated and he asked me if he could. I said, do you want to put my earbuds in just to like cut the noise? And he's like, yeah. And then when I gave him the earbuds, he's like, will you put on music? And I was like, oh, all right, yeah, I'll put on some music for you. So I put on some like ambient, I don't know, like meditation music kind of thing. And he kept them in. It was right towards the end of dinner and we left and he wanted to keep them in and he was sitting in the back seat with me. And as we were driving home, we drive along the bay. It's a beautiful drive. And like, I just kind of felt his whole energy shift. I don't know if it's just a mom thing, but I like look over and I kind of touched his shoulder and he looks at me and he just starts like crying. And I know he was just really in his feelings about something. And so I leaned over and I was like, I see that you're sad, do you want to talk about it? And he looks at me, he's like, I miss Suki, and he just starts crying about, our dog that passed away,
Yeah.
he's, she's been gone for over a year now. It'll be 2 years this October. And like,
Yeah.
he still has like upwelling of grief about her, which so do I. I mean, she was like our other child, she's such a cool dog.
Right.
And I said, it's okay to be sad. Sometimes that stuff catches you by surprise. And I still get sad about her too. Like, just feel it and try to get it out of your body. Try not to keep that stuff in your body and, just let it out. So we get home and he says, I think I want to go to the skate park, So Dad geared up and took him to the skate park. And I said, I think that's a really good idea. Go to the skate park. I said, after feeling all that grief and sadness, it might feel good to like move your body and stuff. He's like, yeah. I said, what was it that brought that up for you?" He goes, "Just looking at the bay and listening to the music." And that's what, and just remembering her started happening. And that's why I got sad. It's just looking at the bay, because we used to take her to the marsh, and, just the music and the water made me think of her and get sad. I
Yeah.
said, "All right, well, have a good time at the skate park." He gets back from the skate park and he's like, "Mom, I gotta show you this picture." And I think he's gonna show me a picture of him doing some skating the bowl or something.
Sure.
And he like pulls open Dad's phone and he shows me this picture of this dog that looks just like Suki. It's like little red brown little dog with pointy ears. And I was like, "Whoa, that is a
Wow.
Suki lookalike."
Yeah.
And he's like, "This dog, it was a boy though, it was a boy, and this little boy dog came up to me, and he wanted to be my friend. He like wanted to give me love and like make friends with me." And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's so special. Like, you were really feeling Suki, and then that dog came."
Yeah.
He goes, "I know, that's what I thought. I thought maybe like Suki sent the dog, like it was some sort of like message from Suki, or like Suki sent the dog
Yeah.
and let me know that she heard me or whatever." And I was like, "I think she did, babe.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how the universe hangs together. I don't know how all that works, but she's out there and she loves you and she feels you, and she's telling you that she's still connected to you by doing that stuff." He goes, "That's what I thought too."
Yeah.
And it was just such a sweet synchronicity that like he got to, I don't know, it was really cool. It was really cool. I was so stoked that I mean, crap. These kids are, the emotional IQ of these kids these days, man. It's like he feels his feelings. He talks about them,
Yeah.
and then kind of the universe just sort of, I don't know, supported him or validated him in some way. And he recognized that, and he felt joy after feeling so much sadness. And it was really beautiful. It was really beautiful, little synchronicity to see him get to have.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That is a really special story about Suki and him. I was thinking that you've already had so many experiences yourself too with
Yeah,
her.
man. I have. I have. Suki's
Yeah.
out there, man. I love her so much. She's still so connected to us.
Yeah. Definitely. I think so too. Wow, that's beautiful, Joe. That's beautiful.
I know. It makes me feel emo.
Yeah, I can hear
Miss my
your
girl.
voice. Yeah. Magic dog.
She's a magic dog.
Yeah. So where did
So
we?
that's my weird. Um and I'm excited, and just to change subjects from sadness, I'm
Yeah.
excited that you're coming out here and that we're going to do some low-key squatching
Woo!
together
Low key
down
squatching. I
in
know.
so that's what Annabelle and I call it. We call it low key squatching. It's when we just go camping
Yeah.
and hope for the best, Just go
Yeah.
camping and put it out there that like, I wouldn't mind a roadside crossing.
Yeah.
Please don't scream at me being mad.
Yeah.
Don't scare us.
We'll have a like a tiny bit of gear, and maybe we'll end up getting an additional microphone or some other toys to bring with. But what the so far we got a field recorder and three microphones and a trail cam.
Yeah, we have a really shitty game cam that
Yeah.
that we have more for fun, like animals and stuff. We got a fox last time we went camping. We caught a fox on our game cam.
See,
And then
that's cool to me right there. So
yeah, it's more about that. I really don't think we're going to get Bigfoot on our game cam, but
yeah, we'll have
yeah. So I
some
want to work on, go ahead.
but we'll have some listening devices and
Mhm.
probably come up with some consciousness kind of experiments like intention, attention, kind of things too.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll think of something on the way and do some kind of consciousness experiment.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think I would like to try to do that.
Yeah, that'll be a lot of fun. It'll be really good to see you guys and be in your favorite special camping place where sometimes extremely eerie sounds come out of the woods.
It will be almost to the day, the year anniversary of that recording that I got down at that campsite. And I am crossing my fingers we actually get the same campsite because I'm hoping to gather audio of some of the animals that I hear there frequently. And last time we were there, it was like tons of owls, man. Lots of owls happening down there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I hope to at least get some cool recordings of nocturnal animals, man, because there's some cool things down there that I just really don't know what I heard last year. I don't know.
yeah,
It would be great if Sassy the Sasquatch showed up,
heck yeah, heck yeah.
or at least was hollering at the top of the peak again. I don't know. I re listened to that audio recently and I was like, this is just very compelling. In fact, my neighbor wanted to hear it because she's just like, wait, what happened at Away? And I was like, dude. And I played it for her and she's like, okay, Joe, that's weird. That's really creepy.
Yeah,
And I explained it to her, like what was going on. And she's like, yep. She's like, I know exactly where you were. I know exactly how loud the river, like how far away you are for the river.
yeah,
So she understood, she had some sort of perception of space.
sure. Yep.
She's like, okay, if I hear that water trickling and I know that that's the Mattole and you're up on the terrace, I know you're like where you're at. And then like where that sound is really far away. So that's very, very loud. And yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, she's the first like non-family person that I've played that for. I was like, she might think I'm really weird. She's like, why didn't you wake up your husband? And I was like, because I didn't want to ruin the recording. It was either like record and like I was in the moment and I was recording this thing, or it was wake up my husband and being like, Annabelle, ow, wake up, and he's like, what? And then what, then we're in the
Right.
recording. So,
Yeah, I'm glad you caught as
yeah,
much as you did.
I'm glad I caught it too, but sad that I was the only one to experience it, you know.
Yeah, I get that. That's kind of like seeing UFOs and stuff like that too. Like if you're the only one that
Yeah,
sees it, you're like, oh, man, I wish somebody else was here too, just like for some
totally.
validation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Annabelle, when we saw our UFOs at the hot springs, it was nice that he saw them too. I was like, I'm not, he's like, the weird stuff always happens to you. I'm like, that's kind of true.
So last week you're talking about the bacteria that can create their own micromagnetite,
Magnetotactic bacteria making their
magneto.
own magnetite.
Yeah, I gotta look into that more. That's just super cool. Yeah, I was talking a little bit about Bradshaw Ranch and Chihuahua.
Oh,
Um,
Bradshaw Ranch. Yeah.
um, there was some stuff I wasn't able to get to last time. We were talking about the iron in the soil there on top of the quartz,
Yeah.
and that creating like the almost kind of like a radio receiver transmitter sort of effect that can be disoriented and make you nauseous sometimes.
I wonder, we should maybe look that one up,
Oh, to see
you
what
know,
look them up on the magnetic map.
on the magnetic map and on the geology map.
Yeah, that'd be
Where is
super
the
interesting.
Bradshaw Ranch?
Bradshaw Ranch is in Arizona. I'm not remembering off the top of my head which city it was nearby right now. So in this documentary called Bradshaw Ranch that's on Prime, they basically had like paranormal investigators come in, but also they had a lot of scientists come out too. And last time I was kind of talking about this dude named Benjamin Lone who is apparently like genius electrical engineer person. He was the guy who commented on the iron in the soil with the quartz underneath, creating that radio receiver transmitter effect. He did some measurements out there with his magnetometer and said some interesting things too that it didn't really get to go into. So one of the things that pops up at Bradshaw Ranch is like there was mass sightings of orbs all over the places and some recordings of orbs. I know some people don't really get into it because it just looks like dust floating around the sky, but I think you can kind of tell if it's dust or not if you look at enough of that stuff to be able to tell what the difference
Mm-hmm.
is. I've seen some of the photos from that, and I think some of it's real. But he's saying that there's a lot of naturally occurring magnetics out there in the soil, and that the magnetics can create positively charged ions, which is one way of how plasma is formed, from what I understand.
Huh.
So those orbs that they're photographing and filming and stuff like that could actually just be like plasma that's being generated from those things coming together in just the right way, like the quartz and the iron on top could be creating in the natural Earth's magnetic flow that's coming through that area could be positively charging ions in order to create the plasma to create the appearance of orbs.
Yeah, I wonder if like I'm curious if that stuff just like it's like a burp. It's like it builds up and then like burps off
Yeah,
some sort of energy.
yeah, no, I think that would be super interesting to lean more into and to figure out those kinds of things. But it's such a weird, specific, random, bizarre thing. It's hard to find information on, you know,
It is. Yeah, it's
because he's putting the people that go out there with their sensors and their education and stuff like that are kind of putting their reputation on the line by looking at that stuff in the first place. So
yeah, you really do make yourself look bad if you are a scientist and you want to look at that stuff or use your tools to look at stuff like that, you know. It's like I don't know. You know, we talked about this last time too is like dude, the world is so complex, like the geology and the environment, you know, so you have all these like biotic factors going on and then you have all these like abiotic factors going on like climate and moisture and
yeah,
you know and then you think about like animals, plant community, microbial community, like the cocktail that is a landscape is so incredibly nuanced and so incredibly like variable from like one little spot to the next. There's just all these little nooks of whatever, natural joy or whatever everywhere.
yeah,
So like how do you even quantify something that is that dynamic because usually you know, science has to you have to compare stuff or like be able to hold something constant and then vary something else and then compare them. And it's like
yeah,
you can't yeah, you can't do that really.
yeah, because
It's
it's
very difficult to do that.
right. So this Benjamin Lone Tree guy, he is supposedly like a Sedona vortex expert in those measurements with his magnetometer on those areas too, as well, like Bell Rock, um, those kinds of places. What he says is that the Earth has little like pools or eddies where magnetic energy kind of curlicues and spirals up out of, which I find really interesting. And because you see a lot of these like Native American glyphs around with all these like spiral patterns, and you know, of course, a lot of people immediately are like, "Oh, it's a Stargate. It's a Stargate." It's like, well, maybe, but I'm just thinking that they were just saying that, hey, that's a special sacred area where they
It's
make
doing that thing.
that's doing that thing that affects your
That's
brain.
that's what it's doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like weird danger zone or weird sacred zone up ahead.
Hmm.
But that's curious to me because I've like this year is the first year I've ever heard of magnetic spiraling up out of the earth like that. I hadn't known anything about that. This Benjamin Lone Tree guy says that that's definitely a force that's possible to create portals with. The thing that creates it is the earth and the geology of the area. It's just the earth. It's not something that's like crazy like spiritual.
It's funny. I don't know because we're like meat sacks with a lot of electrical currents running through us and a lot of water. The environment around us is a lot of electrical signals. What is the difference between spirituality and the environment that you're in? I guess that is a good question, or a question I ponder. It's like, is there a difference?
Not, I
I
mean,
don't
it's
know.
almost
Yeah,
not really, because the way human beings are, like you grow up in an environment, so you're relating with it from the start. Yeah, that's something more to think about for sure.
I don't know. And then you also go into like, is it just the Big Bang and like some chaos that has inevitably just sort of spit out some patterns? Or, like, I don't know. I wonder about like the intelligent design thing. It's hard to look at how everything is orchestrated and think that was just random or just evolution and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
It just seems like such a beautiful mishmash of things that play off each other in such cool ways, you know?
yeah, yeah,
I'm not necessarily a God created the earth in 7 days kind of person, but like, I don't know, like if you look at how DNA is constructed and how little we know about DNA and like
yeah.
how DNA can actually hold memory, or like you think
Lots of
about
memory. Yeah,
yeah, like they've done studies of famine related illnesses. They've done studies of lineages of people where their relatives or predecessor relatives have experienced famine related illnesses, and because of that sort of like epigenetic imprint, right? They experience something in their environment, famine,
yeah,
that impressed upon the genetics in such a way that however many generations later, I want to say it was 4 generations later, they studied, but don't quote me on that. But this is just kind of pulling out of my brain what I remember about it. And
sure.
generations later, people who did not experience famine were predisposed to the famine related illnesses. They had a risk factor that was much, much higher for those diseases than people whose relatives did not experience famine and have those famine related diseases. It blows my mind that environment can push into your genetics and that your genetics can push through your lineage, and perpetuate that type of memory, that type of memory of trauma, right? Famine related illness. I
Sure,
mean, on
sure.
some level, that's like a level of trauma that you experience, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, because there has to be some consciousness in there too about it with the DNA programming, I think. There might be all the stimuli from the environment, but it's your conscious experience of what's happening too. That's probably imprinting the DNA too, I would imagine.
yeah, I mean, genetics is just so infinite in that way where, you can have your genotype and you can have your phenotype be sort of expressed but impacted. I don't know. It's just it epigenetics is something I think we just don't quite understand yet.
Yeah,
For me, I'm just like there's some serious magic there going on, because that is how memory is carried through in our bodies and in our cells and stuff. And you
Right.
know, and then also, just can I just bring this one step weirder, is when a woman is pregnant, your fetus, you share the blood, right? Your fetus
Yeah.
and your blood is intermixing, and the blood of that fetus is running through your body for all time. Like after you have your baby, the genetics that your baby has sort of put in your body is still there and is still present, right?
Yeah.
So, you get half your genetic makeup from baby daddy, half your genetic makeup from baby mama. You are running basically the genetics of someone else's lineage through your body.
Yeah.
You, as a mother, a biological mother, you basically become a micro chimera. And there's articles talking about microchimericism. I can't, say the big word. It's so fancy. But talking about how, yes, you basically possess the genetics of the father of that baby in your body from there on out. And I just wonder about that, because I wonder what type of genetic lineage you actually put or integrate into your body. And as a mother, I'm curious what impacts those have. I'm wondering also, I know this sounds really woo woo and gets way out of control maybe, but what if integrating another person's lineage or another person's genetic memory is hard for certain women to integrate for whatever reason? Maybe there's a lot of stuff there that's hard to integrate. How does that affect you psychologically? Is that play into a woman's postpartum journey, or
Sure. Sure.
with postpartum depression and all the different things that are going on with your hormone fluxes and whatever? You're literally a micro chimera. Your genetics the genetics of your body haven't been altered, but the genetics that are flowing through your blood are different.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm a chimera, man. That's right.
Mirrors. So going back to the iron and the quartz, yeah,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I didn't make the connection to it until today, but are you familiar with how much rosy colored granite has been used in sculptures and buildings and stuff like that in Egypt?
No,
Lots.
unaware.
Yeah, lots.
It was like a preferred
Yeah,
rock that they used.
yeah.
Rosy granite.
Might actually be
Uh-huh.
called like
Yeah.
red granite, but
Okay.
it's iron and quartz, baby. Just found that out today.
Wow.
So I guess that maybe that was one of my synchronicities because I'd been looking at the
Yeah.
other stuff.
That's pretty cool. That's
So
pretty cool.
I was like, okay, so now we have to think about this though, because there's these invisible forces, magnetic forces that are happening, originally just kind of like happenstance with a lot of other things in the Earth's pulling up magnetic energy in certain spots and stuff like that. But with the Bradshaw Ranch thing, it's going into the quartz deposit and the iron oxide soil.
Yeah.
But now you have these statues and structures that are built with this stuff, and they're probably already built on top of naturally occurring magnetic lines and water sources. So
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about somebody intentionally doing things like that,
Yeah.
intentionally using stones that have quartz stuff in them, have magnetite in them, like the basalt, on top of
Yeah.
underground water and
Yeah.
magnetic lines that are crisscrossing usually on these spots. They're
Yeah.
usually crisscrossing. Sometimes it's just there's going through, and sometimes they're
Yeah.
spiraling up in that area.
I definitely think, I mean, there's a relationship there with the iron, the magnetic piece of the iron, and then the piezoelectric thing, which is just like sort of an electrical potential that is maybe magnetism affects the electricity. Electricity can affect magnetism. They kind of feed each other there. And so I guess I'm curious like how water fits into all of that and how of the movement of water, and like there is a little like ionization thing that happens with moving water,
Yeah.
and the hydrogens and stuff is happening there,
And water's conductive
that
for
creates a
energy
little,
too. Yeah.
and then all water is also conductive of energy.
Yeah.
Yes, all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay, we figured it out. It's all about the water and the geology and the soil people. Didn't you know?
Didn't.
I'm totally biased though because I'm obsessed with geology and soil.
Yeah. So I was watching this documentary about by this dude named Freddie Silva, and it was called Temple Making. And it's probably one of the
Temple what?
temple making.
Oh, temple making. I thought
Yeah.
you said temple maiden. I was like, that's weird. Okay, temple making.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's super cheesy and outdated. It was made in like 2011, so the production quality is hilarious. But Freddie Silva's level of information is always like top notch. And he's been all over the planet and like looks at like all these different sites and like tries to like with his consciousness like interact with them and get to know them and like relate with them. And that's his thing. And sometimes he gets like little downloads about an area and he figures out information that he'll actually go and like research later and be like, oh, cool. Okay, so the impression that I got is
Yeah.
actually what that site was used for, which I think is really cool. But he was going on about the forces of the water in the magnetism having to be present in almost all these sacred sites that are all over the planet. Also talking about how a lot of times these sites will line up. Like if you bring out a map and you can like locate locate a bunch of sacred sites in like in a larger area, you can see that's a straight line going down. For instance, he brought up one that was really cool. Um, this map of basically like Ireland all the way down to Israel, and he was showed this line of sites that went all the way down, like different temples and places that were churches were built on top of older temples,
Yeah,
like
that
Gothic.
was a standard practice.
Yeah, but like the Gothic style cathedrals that were built by the Templars, who already knew these like older practices too, right? Some of them are,
Mm-hmm.
not all of them, but he drew a line from this island in off the coast of Ireland called Skellig Michael. Have you heard of Skellig Michael before?
No, I don't think so.
It's a really special place. It's a really special island, and I think the Druids may have been there at one point. I can't remember that much, but I do remember the structures that were built on that island that seemed like they would have been kind of structures that might try to harness some kind of invisible energy.
Okay.
They've got all these stone structures built on this island that are kind of like half of an egg, like if you took an egg and stood it up and cut it straight in half and then put half of it on a flat surface and what stuck up is like half of an egg like that.
Uh huh.
But it's all built of stone, and I can't figure out what kind of stone it is yet, but I'm going to because I want to know that.
I would be very interested to know what stone that is.
Yeah,
Huh.
I think there are all these like meditation, consciousness altering kind of chamber things. That's what my feeling is when I look at it. Like, but anyway,
So That's the question I have too. So, like, why? I guess why? Why harness all these magnetic and electrical potential? Like, why? Consciousness altering. Is that what you think? Like, is that why all these like power places like the pyramids and all these temples? And was it to have whatever God experiences, mind altering, getting you into some state where you have perception beyond what you maybe normally are experiencing? Are you changing the frequency of your body in some way that alters your perception?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I mean, the human body generally has a frequency of about like 5 hertz. You know, I was doing some research on the frequency of the human body and our brains and all of that. And
Hmm.
and the Earth's magnetic frequency is almost 12 hertz.
Hmm.
So what's the bigger point there? Is it to
Ultimately, yeah,
experience God or experience altered consciousness, or is it to heal your body? Is it what, like why?
I think it's a tool. I think it's a consciousness tool. I think that, and it's just my opinion from the things I've been checking out, that it's a place to create extremely, extremely powerful prayers because it can alter your consciousness and you would be like transmitting those prayers. So like it boosts up your prayer game, I think. And I also, which I think that's probably what it's mostly used for, in my opinion. But also like trying to communicate with other forms of intelligence, I think. People,
So that you can what? Survive? How harsh it is on Earth? So
yeah,
you
so
can get information
yeah,
about.
get information and learn things and learn how to make life better. And
Yeah. I mean, like, we have all these like paradigms of like science and research and like intellectual endeavors now. But like, what if getting information happened in these other ways? And like, you look at like shamanism and like understanding plant medicine and
yeah,
like like how did they know that that plant was good for the uterus? Well, or like, how did they know these things about that plant or that whatever? And it's like, well, because we were able to get the information in other ways.
yeah,
The information is still valid.
yeah. They'll
Um,
say the plant told us what it was good for.
yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
I think it's interesting. I guess it's about receiving information, building intelligence to some degree in a way that I feel like is just not understood anymore.
I
We've gone down this other way of understanding things
I totally agree.
that is almost infantile in its approach,
Yeah.
you know.
So there's this guy named Adam Apollo he's a pretty big science guy. I don't think he actually is like a doctor. I don't think he has his doctorate, but he is very, very smart. I've heard him on a bunch of radio shows, and I just watched something with him in it today. And so examples of where you can get an information dump in your head from one of these sacred sites, like an information download. Dump is probably not a very romantic word for that, but uh, so he took a group of people down to Ollantaytambo in South America, one of the old ruins down there with the gigantic walls with all the polygonal blocks that are just like mushed together like marshmallows or whatever, like one of those spots, right?
Oh yeah. Are they like what do they call those polymers or like
It might be a geopolymer. Is that what you mean?
Geopolymer, that's the word I was thinking of.
Yeah,
Okay, but I do know what you're talking about. They're like interlocking blocks and stuff. But okay,
yeah,
so these aren't necessarily geopolymers. These might just be cut with alien lasers or whatever.
yeah, or heated up and smushed together somehow. But it was
Yeah.
it was one of those wall faces, and it had places where you could stick your head in, and
Oh.
they had figured out that the area would resonate if somebody could find the right tone. And there are these different areas that had a different tone that it would resonate to. So they got a group, I think he said he got a group of people together, a small group of people that were making sounds, and then other people that had stuck their heads in these little holes, right? So you had this whole operation going, and they they set off all the different frequencies and then made the wall vibrate, and these people are getting these weird downloads. He didn't say what they were about, but he said people are getting downloads in their heads. Like everybody experienced a download that had their head stuck in
Whoa.
that hole. So
Uh huh.
that's that's very intentional.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with
Yeah.
you're so and complex too, because now we're dealing with like the geology in the area, the magnetics in the area.
And
Um,
sound.
yeah, the structure is built intentionally on top of that to create a sound for this information to get dumped into people's heads. Like that's
Was the information that people received like the same kind of information, or are people just receiving information about something,
he
whatever? Like individually, was there a common link between the
he did
information that people were receiving?
he didn't go into that, and I want to know more
God
about that because
damn
it's
it.
it's freaking I know it's just
Like,
like a
were they
little
all
tidbit.
getting, yeah, like, were they all getting information about the same thing, or was there a through thread? It's sort of like, how Aboriginal people will share their dream. They have like collective dreaming.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, was there some sort of collective thing happening there, or does everyone just get information that they needed for them damn selves, or like how? Yeah, how does that work? So
Yeah. I wish I could have been
it's
able
like
to hear
sometimes,
that, but
yeah, sometimes when you see these docs or like you see people doing stuff and you're just like, but I want to know more about that one thing.
totally.
I mean, they were all getting downloads. They were all receiving information about what?
And that's
I don't
that's
really want to know.
that's the second time I've heard about sticking your head in a hole in a rock wall in one of the old sites, though. I mean, this one was in Peru.
That's like
This one was in
that's
Peru.
almost like the God helmet, right?
It probably is like the God helmet. Yeah.
I mean, like, doesn't that just scream that same concept almost? Like to me, I mean, I see a parallel there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a similar concept, but it's also like there's also sound involved, so it's a little different, I think. But I mean, it's still
But I
vibration
mean,
and
sound,
frequency.
maybe the sound is creating the frequency versus like electricity creating the frequencies. Like with the God helmet, they're just cranking the frequency up with some sort of electricity, but it's all the same thing, right? It's all achieving that frequency around your head, you
Yeah,
know?
and altering your consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Huh.
tickling all your magnetite crystals in your brain. Yeah.
When we were on the river hanging out one day, Annabelle and I were just, kicking back, and the dog was swimming, the kid was swimming, we are having a good time. And I was like, babe, I gotta tell you about this magnetotactic bacteria. He's like, what the fuck? It's like, no, babe, I learned something. I learned something. I need to tell you this. And so I told him about like these bacteria having magnetosomes that can like biogenically like synthesize magnetite, and how they like use that to um their ability to like move around is because they can align themselves geomagnetically with the earth's magnetic forces to like move around and stuff. And he was like, he got pretty blown away. He's like, I've never heard that. I'm like, I haven't either, but apparently there's a lot of this magnetotactic bacteria around, babe. And he's like, man, I'm like, I'm always learning something cool about bacteria or like fungi or something. But yeah, he was pretty blown away.
My
It
little
blew me away.
friends, my little friends.
Welcome to my party, my little friends. I still have that card you gave me.
Nice.
I keep that. I keep that card because it's one of my most favorite birthday cards I think I've ever gotten. I don't know where it is. I think it's up on my fridge in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. Let's see what else. Oh, yeah. So, did run across one more thing that I thought was interesting because it kind of went one step beyond what we were kind of looking at before. With sacred sites, we were noticing like, okay, why are all these sacred sites made with igneous rock? It's like that's a threat, right? You got like
Definitely.
granite, you got your basalt, diorite, things like that. Oh,
All of that is got iron and aluminum and all of these things in there that would contribute to a magnetic signature.
yeah. It's something that I'm still trying to wrap my head around. Why? Kind of more scientifically. I understand it metaphorically, but I don't understand it scientifically. But Freddie Silva was saying that these lights have to have feminine stones because all of the igneous rocks are male stones because they're made by that like volcanic stuff, right? So that being
Yeah,
considered more of like a male energy, and sedimentary rocks being more female energy because they're created by water, right?
sedimentary was created by, yeah, water and
There's water involved.
compression.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're sedimentary. Yeah, and there's the manipulation that happens to compress it down into shale or sandstone or limestone or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. He was saying like he was saying you have to look really closely at all these sites because they always balance it out with the female. Like you'll see like a little corner in some of the structures that have like a lot of granite, you'll see like a little corner that has like limestone, sandstone, sarsen, which is a new one I heard of that is like compressed sandstone, I guess.
Okay.
Things like marble or alabaster too, as well. Yeah, and a lot of
So,
the
so this like male and female, I mean like masculine and feminine energy, quote unquote, like how do you go about assigning that to like that's just the igneous, and then like water based mineralogy is like sedimentary is more feminine.
yes, yeah, that's what he was saying, and saying that he doesn't think the sites would actually work if there wasn't any sedimentary stone built in with them, because there has to be at least some feminine energy involved
Huh.
for it to function as a machine or whatever you want to say it is.
Huh. So it does go back to the sedimentary stuff too. Yeah, there's something about that.
Yeah,
There's something about that because there's like events that can like magnetize that magnetite portion in it. Events can happen where it'll hold that magnetic charge. Does that make sense? So like
yeah,
if you put certain types of metals in a magnetic field, some will like become a magnet after that magnetic field leaves, and some types of metals will not, you know?
Right.
So there's like that paramagnetic, or, you know, there's different qualities that different metals have. So it's interesting. Hmm.
Yeah. Like the
Yeah.
Stonehenge has all those like beautiful like blue. It's like some kind of like a blue quartz. Those blue stones. It's got.
So what is quartz then? Is quartz considered masculine or feminine?
Well, actually, it's blue. I'm sorry. It's the blue stones are blue granite. That's what I meant to say. Blue granite. So it has
Blue
quartz in
granite.
it.
Yeah, granite has a lot of things in it.
Yeah, but it also has it's blue granite and sarsen is the compacted, hyper compacted sandstone. So it has the male and the female balance going
There's
on.
that sedimentary piece. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sedimentary piece that's Stonehenge. It's the
Hmm.
sarsen.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, I never even knew that. I thought it was all that blue granite. That was it.
Hmm.
But there's like little pieces
Fascinating.
pieces in there, and he was pointing out where they were.
Yeah. What other cool places did you fall into your research for like power places? What are the pyramids made out of?
John,
Limestone, baby.
it's limestone. Yeah, there you go.
Limestone, around 5.5 million tons of limestone and 8,000 tons of granite transported from over 800 kilometers away.
Yeah, yeah.
So there you go again with your quartz and limestone, baby.
From the Aswan quarry, that's like, yeah, super super far away.
Far away.
Yeah,
They want, and like that's very,
but it is there we go.
that's cool.
There we go again with the masculine and the feminine. If we go back to the Freddie Silva stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, were they using this lime as a mortar? No, they weren't. Limestone casing blocks around the granite. So they had like stuff on the inside and then limestone on the out. So it was like
yeah,
cased in limestone.
and there should have been another covering beyond that too. That used to be there. I forget what that one is. Is it marble or something like that? There was an outside layer that was supposed to go on top of the limestone too,
Oh,
but
it's interesting. There's limestone, granite, basalt, and then gypsum was used as the mortar.
gypsum, huh? Okay.
Hmm. I've actually never really looked into any of this stuff before. That's really interesting to me. Huh.
But so you got places like the Bradshaw Ranch. You got these temples that are built on top of magnetic forces. Like what else is there? There's weird places like Dyatlov Pass.
And then there's just like people having weird experiences when they're just like sitting out in the tree stand hunting, and they're like hiking, or even just weird shit happening in cities, you know, and like people seeing things, or like, you know, people seeing, you know, ghosts, or you know, like the Gettysburg area where like all the friggin' battles went down, and like people see all kinds of stuff like, you know, is there some sort of like retroactive forward? Is it a time slip? Is it a recording? Is it your consciousness melding with that landscape in some way that lets you experience the information that was left there? You know, sometimes
Yeah,
I wonder about that, like the
I
power of
was
place,
yeah.
and how like people will have, you know, okay, so we've talked about how all this magnetism and electricity and frequency of your body, you know, engaged in an area. So then you have these paranormal experiences, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, is that us experiencing, you know, way back in the day when those shamans were getting the information they needed to survive, or building their intelligence by gathering information in this way through their consciousness? You know, are we just like happening upon that? Is that what's happening when people see ghosts? Is
Sure.
it you know, like, is that being held by the landscape? Is that some sort of time slip? Is that, what is, I go back and forth between those things. I'm like, are we tape recording things into the geology of the earth and you come along and flip play somehow on the
Yeah.
tape recorder? You know,
Or is it both?
what do you think about all that?
I think it's probably both. I do wonder about that all the time too. Like when you talk about like the Gettysburg stuff with the hauntings, it seems like it very, very likely could be like one of those like tape recorder ghosts where like a traumatic event happened in an area and it got recorded. But it also could
Yeah,
be
but
you could also your consciousness could be like could be like shifting back in time though too, and it could be both, or it just could be a combination of them that are greater or lesser in some areas.
yeah, or you think about like,
I don't think one rolls off the other, I guess is what
yeah,
I'm
or
saying.
like magic ceremony, like Aleister Crowley doing ceremony, like, is that type of, for lack of a better word, sorcery going forward and backward in time? Is that some sort of, you're tapping out of the linear time space, and
Yeah,
that message is kind of retroactively rippling and then rippling forward as well, right? And that's the web of weird
I think that's so.
rune, you know.
I think that's totally possible. Yeah,
Like the web of weird rune is like the past, the present, and the future, and it's all happening simultaneously. Like, that's the web, right?
yeah.
Um so are we when, is that web of weird what we're experiencing when we see ghosts? Is that, or maybe like you said, maybe it's like it's all of the above. Maybe it's all of the above, and it's like somehow stored, or the trigger is that landscape cocktail in the frequency of your brain, and then you experience these things.
I can definitely say though that my theory with the tape recorder ghost thing with the limestone and the what was the other one, the um
Arsenic.
arsenic,
It's an
yes.
arsenic compound. Yeah.
Yeah, there's arsenic in there too, which I think it's like what you were saying is definitely part of that. I think what happens is in some of these areas that has that those kinds of deposits of stone in it record things when people have traumatic experiences or really ecstatic experiences. So it might be like a Kundalini charge sort of thing that has like a charge to it that's getting locked into the stone. Like it could be like either like ecstatic or fear because it has such a large charge to it, might be getting locked into the stone in the area. That's my personal feeling about that whole situation with
Hmm.
the tape recorder ghosts.
Yeah.
Yeah, then you also have things in the area that can affect your consciousness. Like I think when I saw my large orb when I was sitting in Minnehaha Creek was probably because I kind of shifted frequencies, and it was because of the running water around me and like the granite that was all around too.
Mm-hmm.
There was something that shifted my consciousness slightly, so I was able to see something that was vibrating in a different frequency or from a different place. Like I shifted into their zone and they're like, "Oh, what are you doing here?"
Mm-hmm. I'm aware that you're aware of me. Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I just went to a place here it's a very powerful place. It's called Sumeg Village. It's a place where the Yurok people were, and still are. They hold ceremonies there, and they do stuff there still. But there's an area there called Ceremonial Rock, which I had never been to, and my son actually brought us there because he had gone there on a field trip, and he's like, "Oh, I want to show you guys this place," and we went, and he knew right where it was and brought us there, and it was a giant I mean, basically it's a sea stack, but I'm pretty sure it's a sea stack that because of tectonic subduction and stuff, like it's just been pushed up onto land now, you know. But yeah, this place was really like I didn't it always just kind of like slaps me on the face sometimes when I have sort of an empathic moment or whatever. But we came into this place and, you know, we're walking on a trail in the forest, do. You know, these plants are nice. We're looking at stuff and then we kind of like cut off the path and there are these two big rocks and in the middle of it there's this really big bay laurel tree, like you know what that is? Bay
Yeah.
laurel tree. It's kind of got a stinky, yummy smell to it and it's planted in between these two trees and there's like a set of stairs where you can go up on top of this one rock, but I'm telling you where that tree was in between these two rocks, it was very intense in there, and going up on top of the rock was beautiful, but like energy wise or like where I felt the most moved was really down at the base of the rock.
Yeah.
And I just was very overcome with sadness. I felt sadness getting pulled out of my body. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
That to me, if I were to describe how it felt like sadness was being pulled out of my body. And I kind of started to cry a little bit just because it was so much. It just felt like so much. And I was like, wow. And Oliver he's like, are you crying? And I said, yeah, babe, I'm crying. You know, he's like, why are you crying? I'm like, because this place feels so much. I just feel so much in this place. I said, it feels like people come and put their grief down here.
Yeah.
And they pray, you know, they pray. I think, you know, they come here and obviously it's called Ceremony Rock. Like, yeah, people have ceremonies there, but like, speaking of just storing stuff in a place, like I kind of got knocked on my butt.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sad? And I'm like, well, there's sadness in me and it's just coming out. So I'm just going to let it come out. And he's like, okay. He worries about me sometimes when I just randomly start weeping.
Sure.
I'm sorry, kid. Your mom's an empath. Just don't mind me. Where?
Yeah.
But yeah, that place had stuff stored in those stones and in that soil and that tree, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. I wonder too if like I'd be very curious to know what the intention of the people were originally that went to that place because
I know, me too.
it's
Me too.
it
And I
seems
don't
like you
I
it seems like you hit the nail on the head. Like that's probably exactly the intent that that place was used for. And that's what your inclination was to do, is just like let go and let it wash out of you.
I don't know. I am ignorant in that way. I do not know what the people there that resided there, I do not know what the Yurok peoples did there. I don't know what ceremonies were conducted there.
Yeah.
And I would love to know. I would love to ask somebody who knows about that more than I do what that place was used for,
Yeah.
or like if what has happened around that place, you know? So,
And that rock was a pretty
yeah,
big rock too, wasn't it?
it was two very big rocks right
Two
next
big
to each
rocks.
other.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were sea stacks, and usually sea stacks are made out of basaltic material.
Sure.
When stuff pops up, what, you know, erodes down a lot of times is sedimentary stuff. So, yeah, most of that stuff I think is basalt. Well, next week we should talk about the Swedish folklore, David Paulides stuff. I'd love that. Yeah, I think that we should talk about that next time.
Yeah, next time that could be fun. Do missing 411 Metz and Pido crossover.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never watched Missing 411 or any of the shows, but I know all about it.
Now you have homework.
I've been wanting to read that article, so
And yeah, in that article.
the journal article. I have been wanting to read it, so it'll be a good thing. It'll be a good reason for me to sit down and look at it.
Missing 411 is on Prime for sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Should I watch that too?
yeah. There's
Okay.
three good ones. There's Missing 411. There's Missing 411 The Haunted, which is creepy because you have all these really experienced hunters go poof in the middle of the
Oh,
woods. And then
okay.
there's a Missing 411 UFOs one too, which is like the last one that he did.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they're all David Paulides documentaries.
yeah,
All right,
good
I'll
stuff.
get through maybe one of those. But I understand the concept, and
It's all
I
yeah, it's all
listened
the
to
same.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Well,
All right. Well, thanks for listening today, guys.
stoked we did this.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it. We did it. Yay.
We love you guys. Stay weird, be weird.
Yeah. Be weird. Be weird. Ciao for now, big brother.
Ciao for now. Bye.